Welcome to the Sad Crime Channel. Today's case from Belpre in United States. The case of Jennifer McCrady's death is one of those that show murder can happen in any environment and affect anyone, regardless of existing bonds between people. It also shows that a murderer can be found among representatives of any profession. A police officer from a small town, Belpre, is an American town located along the Ohio River in the state of Ohio. Belpre isn't large, with just under 7,000 inhabitants, but it is considered a peaceful place. Police officer Jack McCrady lives here with his wife Jennifer. Jack has been in service for several years, and his wife works as a nurse. Both are known and considered a well-matched and happy couple in town. They have 2 young children and maintain close relationships with Jennifer's parents. Jack has been a police officer for several years and was even elected Policeman of the Year once. It's September 19, 1996. Early in the morning, Jack McCrady reports the disappearance of his wife, Jennifer. He tells the dispatcher that when he returned home after duty, his wife was gone. This information reaches investigator David, Sergeant, who knows from experience that relationships can vary and that most missing spouses reappear within a few hours. Therefore, he suggests waiting a bit, as everything might resolve itself. Jack doesn't object to this. He speculates that perhaps his wife left him.
Belpre Police Department.
Hi, this is True McCrady.
Uh-huh.
My wife is missing.
I'll have an officer come in and give you a call up there and talk to you.
Okay.
2 days pass. Jack calls his police colleagues saying he's now sure his wife left him because in the meantime, when he wasn't home, she took some of her personal belongings, including her wedding ring. When Jennifer's parents hear that their daughter left the family, they are surprised and full of disbelief. According to them, it's impossible that Jennifer would leave her children and her previous life without contacting them and simply go somewhere. They openly tell the police that they don't believe Jack's version of events and that something very bad must have happened to their daughter.
She is apparently not missing.
Okay.
She's cleaned out pretty much everything, what she owned.
Okay.
Wedding rings were laying on the kitchen counter. Apparently she's all right.
The next day, 3 days after Jennifer's disappearance, her car is found. It's parked in a lot belonging to a park that stretches along the river. There's no trace of the owner, nor are her personal belongings found like her purse or money. Jack is informed about the car, which seems to belong to his wife. Upon arrival, he confirms that the car belongs to Jennifer. The car is thoroughly searched. Although there is no indication that anything happened to the owner, no signs of blood or struggle. Because there's still no sign of Jennifer, the car is taken to the police laboratory for further examination. Jack, questioned again by the investigator, continues to insist that his wife left him for another man, emphasizing that she had threatened to do so many times before. However, no one or nothing confirms the theory of a mysterious lover. Neither police interviews with Jennifer's family and friends, nor transactions visible on Jennifer's bank accounts, nor her phone conversations. People who know the missing woman say that Jennifer didn't visit anyone other than her own parents, and besides, they stress that they don't believe she would abandon her children. They believe the only reason for her disappearance could be that something happened to her, such as an accident. Several more days pass, filled with fear and uncertainty for Jennifer's relatives and friends. During this time, forensic examination of the car takes place and related investigations continue. Technicians spray the car with luminol. Luminol, or more precisely its solution, is a substance that can detect even very small, invisible traces of blood. It starts to glow after spraying. Because this examination yields no evidence that something bad happened to Jennifer, the police temporarily suspend the investigation. Another 3 days pass. Unexpectedly, the police receive a call. A woman claims that on the day she read about Jennifer's disappearance in the newspaper, she saw a police car in a certain place outside the town. It was in a quite secluded area, which aroused her suspicion. The woman reports that she can even describe the police officer who was behind the wheel. The description indicates that the person was probably Jack. Investigator David G., although he has no reason at the moment to suspect his colleague, decides to go to the place where the woman made the observation. The police car was seen here, driving along a narrow forest road. The investigator reaches that specific place and, walking slowly, surveys the area around the road. Suddenly, something catches his attention, what looks like a freshly dug shallow grave. He decides to call another police officer responsible for this area to assist him. The colleague soon arrives. Both police officers begin to carefully dig the soil at that spot. When they dig a few centimeters deep, they come across something that looks like a plastic bag. After a moment, they notice that the bag has a zipper. It turns out to be a sleeping bag containing the body of a woman wrapped in a blanket. The woman's head is wrapped in a plastic bag. After removing the bag, one of the police officers recognizes Jennifer McCrady's face. A gunshot wound is visible on her head, on the right side above the ear. Jennifer is dressed in pajamas and her bare feet are completely clean. This suggests that the murder occurred while Jennifer was in her own home. A specialized team arrives at the scene. A sample of soil is taken from where Jennifer was found, and the body is taken to the forensic medicine facility. The police inform Jack about the discovery of his wife's body. Jack is distraught and seems close to tears, but Sergeant David G. notices that his eyes are completely dry. Yet another thing raises suspicions. Neither at that moment nor later does Jack ask how his wife died and where she was found. When asked what happened, he still claims he doesn't know anything more. Finally, he announces that he wants to contact a lawyer. Doctor conducting the examination of the body determines that Jennifer died from a wound inflicted by a gunshot to the head, fired from a short distance. The doctor removes a bullet from her skull. The bullet is sent to the forensic laboratory, along with the sleeping bag and blanket found with the body. During the examination of the sleeping bag, it turns out that the inner part is stuck with fiberglass insulation used for sealing in households, and fibers from a carpet are found on the blanket. The technician asks the investigators to bring a sample of carpet fibers from the McCrady's home. Upon checking, it is found to be the same fibers. Now it's practically certain that Jennifer McCrady was murdered in her own apartment. Jack, as the prime suspect in his wife's murder case, is suspended from duty. Investigators decide to subject his gun to examination to determine if the bullet found in Jennifer's skull was fired from that weapon. However, since the barrel shows signs of previous structural interference, ballistic identification is impossible. This fact further convinces investigators that Jack had something to do with his wife's death, but they suspect that proving it will be difficult as the police officer likely meticulously removed all traces. Jack's house is searched. Jennifer's purse is found above one of the beams in the ceiling, along with its contents, wallet, keys, documents, etc. This is very strong evidence against Jack, although searching the house doesn't pinpoint where exactly Jennifer was murdered. The investigators also bring the shovel found in the garage to the laboratory. There are clumps of soil on the shovel, so if it turns out to be the same soil found at the location of the body, it will be a starting point for the theory connecting Jack to his wife's murder. The laboratory technicians compare soil samples from both locations based on color, content of plant material, minerals, and sand grain size. The investigators eagerly await the results. Finally, the results come, and the outcome of the examination is as follows. The soil samples match in every aspect mentioned. This means that the shovel standing in Jack's garage was used to dig at the location where the body was found. It should be added that this type of soil is extremely rare throughout the region. 3 days after Jennifer's body was found, Jack is arrested and charged with his wife's murder. However, he still maintains his innocence. A year and a half later, the trial begins, which remains circumstantial throughout because Jack McCrady consistently denies murdering his wife, and there are no witnesses who could testify to seeing something that would link Jennifer's husband to the crime. The case arouses great interest in Belpre, both because a mother of 2 young children was murdered and because the murderer was a police officer, a person whose declared goal is to enforce the law and protect citizens. Because, especially in a small community, a person working as a police officer is respected and esteemed, the news of who Jennifer's murderer was shocked the citizens even more. During the trial, Jack's lies also come to light, including his stories about being a successful marriage. A woman who worked with his wife said that Jennifer mentioned wanting to leave her husband with the children. The prosecution argued that on the night of the murder, an argument occurred between the spouses, after which Jack shot his wife, then removed her body and hid it in a place where he thought it would never be found. Additionally, to mislead the trail, he abandoned the car at the park, and all of this happened at night while the children were sleeping. After a 14-hour debate, the jury finds Jack guilty of murdering his wife. The police officer receives a life sentence. Jack McCrady never admitted to murdering his wife. In 2014, 18 years after being convicted for the murder of his wife, Jack McCrady, 48 at the time, was denied parole during his first parole hearing at the Chillicothe Correctional Institution. According to the parole board decision document, McCrady's parole request was denied because, due to the serious nature of the crime, the release of the inmate into society would create undue risk to public safety. It will be nearly 10 years, 117 months, before McCrady is eligible for parole again. It was just a very sad case and an awful situation, said Major Brian Shuck with the Washington County Sheriff's Office, who was a friend of the McCradys. Shuck was also an investigator in the case. I knew him and Jennifer as well as their families on both sides, he said. This was a shock to a lot of people, her death and burial in the middle of nowhere. Shuck said Jack McCrady had driven his wife to that location in her car, buried the body, then drove the vehicle to the Belpre boat ramp where he left it, and walked back to their home. It was 2 days later that McCrady showed up at Shuck's door and reported that his wife was missing. We talked a while, but I told him he would have to file the report with the Belpre police, Shuck said, so he reported it to Belpre Sergeant Steve Garvey. During a phone conversation with Garvey later, Shuck asked about McCrady's report and soon discovered the story McCrady shared with Shuck differed from what he told Garvey. The stories just didn't match up, and that's when we knew something wasn't right, Shuck said. But I never suspected Jack until after I talked with Sergeant Garvey. Shuck said he and McCrady had spent weeks together during Corrections Academy training in Huttonsville, and the two men served with the Wood County Sheriff's Office prior to Shuck transferring to the Washington County Sheriff's Office and McCrady joining the Ohio State Highway Patrol. Shuck said evidence collected during the investigation included a gun found at McCrady's home that ballistics analysis showed would have been the type used in the murder, although the rifling of the firearm's barrel had been drilled to remove any evidence that it had been fired. A set of pillows with a print that matched the comforter in which Jennifer's body was wrapped were also discovered in the home. Current Washington County prosecutor Jim Schneider prosecuted the case. There was no motive brought out in the case, he said. It had come out in court that he was using steroids to build up his body mass, but we don't know if that's what caused him to murder his wife. Shuck said the couple had 2 young sons who were raised by Jennifer McCrady's parents after her death. She was just a very nice person, he said, and I still feel bad for the family.
Blessing, I guess, that they've got that they can do it. She is my very best friend. I talk to her. I still talk to her. People think I'm crazy, but nobody knows I'm talking to her. She can hear me, I'm sure.